Welcome to Who's That Pokemon, the most in-depth Pokemon anime rewatch podcast on the entire internet. If you didn't know, this is a retrospective look back on the Pokemon anime series, episode by episode from the very beginning. The show has been airing for over 20 years now and has over 1,000 episodes, yet it seems to get neglected by Pokemon fans, so I thought it was about time it got a podcast entirely dedicated to it. The episode that we're taking a look back on today is the 14th episode of the Indigo League series, titled Electric Shock Showdown. In Japan, the episode was titled Electric Shock Showdown Vermilion Gym. The episode first aired in Japan on July 1st, 1997, and in the United States it aired on September 25th, 1998. On this day in Pokemon history for the Japanese air date, it's Rachel Lillis' birthday. She's the original voice of both Misty and Jessie, and she's one of the main cast members of the original Four Kids dub, and as a result, she's remembered quite fondly by millions and millions of people around the world. In both roles, she really helped define and shape those characters in the West. And yeah, honestly, I still associate her exclusively with Misty. I'm not sure if I think she may have came back, maybe in Sun and Moon to play Misty, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I still completely associate her with Misty because, I mean, essentially, Misty hasn't been around that much since the voice actor split. Jessie, not as much. The new voice actress for Jessie, I don't really mind too much, and because she's been around so long now, it's kind of split between the two for me. On this day in Pokemon history for the American air date, in 2000, Pokemon Puzzle League was released in the US, which was a interesting game. It's only the second game in Pokemon franchise history that really takes heavy inspiration from the anime. Obviously, Pokemon Yellow is sort of got an anime skin, I guess, over the pre-existing Red, Green, and Blue games. But Pokemon Puzzle League was a puzzle game, but all of the characters, everything about it was the anime. Like, you were literally facing off against anime characters. You were facing off against Gary Oak, stuff like that. So it's actually quite an interesting game, and it looks like a pretty fun puzzle title. And the added anime sort of sheen to it it makes me even more interested to try it out one day. The screenplay for this episode was penned by Atsuhiro Tomioka. With this episode, he's now written 4 episodes, which ties in with Takeshi Shudo for most episodes. He last wrote the Path to the Pokemon League and has mostly done filler-ish episodes. This is his first crack at writing a gym battle episode, so fingers crossed it goes well for him. The character debuts in this episode. We have Lieutenant Surge debuting as for the humans, and on the Pokemon side of things, Raichu makes its debut in the anime, and unsurprisingly, the Who's That Pokemon for this episode is Raichu. So with all of that said and done, it's time to get stuck into the episode summary and discussion. After 2 weeks of travelling, Ash, Misty and Brock have finally made it to Vermilion City. Brock and Misty are eager to get cleaned up, but Ash is more concerned about finding the Vermilion Gym. However, Brock stops Ash and points out that Pikachu is in no condition to have a battle. Pikachu and Ash are also quite hungry, so they head to the Pokemon Center. At the Pokemon Center, Ash and his friends witness Nurse Joy's Chansey and a trainer run in. On a stretcher that's being pushed by Chansey is a badly beaten up Rattata. Brock wonders what happened, and Nurse Joy sadly comments on all of the injured Pokemon that have been brought in recently. Ash and his friends are then taken to a room where there are many badly injured Pokemon, including a Caterpie, Oddish, Sandshrew, and the previously seen Rattata. Nurse Joy explains that they have all lost to Lieutenant Surge, the Vermilion City gym leader. At this, Ash begins to worry over his upcoming gym battle against Surge.
Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
Oh, I can't wait to take a bubble bath.
I have to hit the laundromat.
I'm gonna find the Vermilion City gym right now!
Hold it!
Huh? What's the matter? Pikachu!
It must be hungry.
First thing we need to address, wow, it really took them a whole 2 weeks to get to Vermilion City. That is quite impressive. They do like putting sort of periods of time on their travels early on, which doesn't help when everybody keeps complaining about Ash being 10 eternally. And then when they mention actual passages of time, it just gives them more ammo for that fire, and I absolutely hate it. They do really emphasize how rough the gang has it on the road in these early episodes, I feel like later on they sort of make their traveling and camping lifestyle seem pretty fun. Like it's sort of an idyllic thing, like camping out in the woods is kind of fun. Start a bonfire, have Brock cook up some tasty meals. But here, they're starving, they're beaten and battered, like they clearly are having a rough time sleeping out on the road. And yeah, I feel like it flies in the face of sort of how they depict it later on. When they run into Nurse Joy here, they are shocked again that this is yet another identical Joy, which is just ridiculous at this point. You've seen so many Joys now that it's like, why should it be a shock? Also, for Brock and Misty, it shouldn't be a shock at all. Like, they should be knowledgeable enough about the world to know that all of the Joys look the same. I mean, Ash, it would make sense. Ash has probably never even left Pallet Town in his life until he started his journey. But you would think Brock and Misty, being gym leaders, would at least have some sort of experience, traveling to other cities, and would realize all of the Joys are identical. Speaking of this, there's actually an error here. When Nurse Joy is explaining that all the Nurse Joys look alike, she says the one in Pewter City is her first cousin, and the one in Viridian City is her second cousin. However, in Pokemon Emergency, the Nurse Joy in Viridian City called the one in Pewter City her sister. If these two are sisters, they would both share the same relationship with the one in Vermilion City, such as being either both first cousins or both second cousins. So, yeah, they didn't really think that through here. Misty yet again mocks Ash for getting badges for pity, which I think is pretty rich coming from her, considering he was gutter stomping her before Team Rocket interrupted during their gym battle. Like, it was pretty clear that Ash was going to win that gym battle. And also, the Team Rocket interrupting robbed Butterfree of a chance to actually win a trainer battle, because fun fact, Butterfree does not win a single battle before it leaves, so yeah. They also kind of push the poke shipping angle here when Ash and Misty are arguing, and Lion makes sort of a mention about how those who argue with each other actually really care about each other, and I feel like that's them sort of pushing the Ash and Misty sort of love interest angle, which I'm not sure if the line was sort of like that in the original Japanese, but 4Kids had a huge hard-on for trying to push Ash and Misty as a couple, and yeah, they shoved in lines like that whenever they could. So as I said, Misty unhelpfully reminds Ash that he only received his first 2 badges out of pity, but Ash retorts that a badge is a badge. After a heated exchange with Misty on the subject, a bell chimes to signal that Ash's Pokemon are fully recovered. However, upon seeing the injured Pokemon, Pikachu becomes frightened to take on Lieutenant Surge and flatly refuses to battle. Ash drags Pikachu with him to the Vermilion Gym anyway, and Ash enters the gym declaring his intention to win a Thunder Badge. Lieutenant Surge's 2 subordinates in the gym mock Pikachu, and the man himself is even crueler, christening Ash Baby and Pikachu a baby Pokemon. Surge then calls on his Raichu, a Pokemon that has a personality quite like its trainers. Despite Surge's assertion that Ash should have evolved Pikachu already, Ash protests, claiming that there is more to a Pokemon battle than evolution.
Hello, I've come for a Pokemon battle to earn a Thunder Badge.
Hey, boss. Another victim for the emergency room.
Which one?
We continue the theme of each town's gym looking really unique and having a certain charm and personality to it. I do love the design of Vermilion's gym here. The lightning bolts sort of sticking out of the top when you so I guess it's on the kind of entranceway. It's really cool, and yeah, I think that's a big tick for the anime so far. Obviously, Cerulean looked quite unique with this it's kind of like a circusy type feel, and then obviously on the inside it's extremely unique. And look, Pewter's is a bit bland, but I guess it kind of fits. It's all about rocks and stuff, and it's basically a big rock. I feel like those 2 people that they encounter when they first walk into the gym is sort of a nod to the underlings in gyms in the games, because that's probably one of the big aspects from the games that we don't ever see in the anime. Every time you go to a gym in the Pokemon games, you're going to run into at least one, but usually sometimes half a dozen trainers in there. But when you go there in the show, it's literally just a huge stadium sort of for a leader, which I did like the little nod towards it, if that was an actual nod, towards that aspect of the games. Obviously, we're introduced to Lieutenant Surge for the first time here, and Surge is voiced by Maddie Blaustein, who hasn't taken over Meowth yet. She doesn't take over Meowth until probably I think it's 21 episodes from now, so there's quite a ways away for Maddie to take over. But she is starting to get more and more roles in the show. She played Seymour previously, and I think maybe one other notable character. It's not coming to me at the moment. So yeah, it's her roles are definitely increasing, and she has quite a range here. Like Seymour's voice and Surge's voice are quite different, and then even when you throw in her eventual Meowth voice, they're all quite unique. She was a very, very talented, actor. I think people sort of, underrate her maybe a little bit. Everybody sort of celebrates her for being Meowth because she was the iconic Meowth voice, even despite not being in the first 30-odd episodes. But yeah, she had quite a range. Lieutenant Surge's design here is kind of cool. I guess he's 30 feet tall compared to Ash and Co. But to be fair, our main characters are literally kids. They're not adults like Surge. So he doesn't seem too tall when you take into account that Ash is the size of a 10-year-old. So it actually makes sense that he would be looking up to a fully grown adult like this. But so Surge is clearly designed to be tall because he does sort of overshadow his little minions that welcomed Ash to the gym. I just wondered to myself in the middle of this episode whether people thought that maybe Lieutenant Surge would join Ash after this episode. Because you think about it, every episode where he's encountered a gym leader so far, they've joined him. So maybe people at the time thought this was a theme and they're like, oh, he's kind of just going to build out this big party of gym leaders moving on. Because, there was nothing to compare it to. There was no precedent at the time, so anything could have happened. So I definitely, as a kid, I could have probably seen myself thinking, you know what? He's probably going to link up with Surge after he defeats him. And yeah, it doesn't happen here. It finally bucks the trend. Listening to Surge's taunts, Pikachu decides that he's ready to fight Raichu. Lieutenant Surge accepts Ash's challenge and the battle promptly begins. Both Pokemon begin with a Thunder Shock attack, but Raichu's is significantly stronger and does far more damage to Pikachu than Pikachu deals to Raichu. Brock realizes that Pikachu simply cannot stand up to Raichu's more powerful attacks and recommends that Ash withdraw Pikachu. However, when Ash tells Pikachu to return, he refuses and charges again at Raichu. The resulting trade-off between Pikachu and his adversary leaves Pikachu severely damaged by a Mega Punch and Mega Kick from Raichu. Meanwhile, outside, Team Rocket is looking into the gym, seeing Pikachu getting knocked around. They begin to worry that if Pikachu is getting beaten up like this, then maybe he's not worth stealing at all, and all of their efforts have been in vain. Meowth suggests that they could steal Raichu instead, but Jessie and James decide that they should root for Pikachu. However, Lieutenant Surge and Raichu have already won, with Raichu unleashing a powerful Thunderbolt that defeats Pikachu easily.
Surge is getting ready to finish it off. Now, give us the big finale, Raichu!
So when Pikachu kind of perks up and starts to get motivated to jump into the battle, I thought it was weird that Brock says it's unusual that Pikachu wanted to jump into that battle. What's weird about that at all? It was more weird that Pikachu was afraid to go into battle than Pikachu wanting to kick a Raichu's ass, especially because they're being so demeaning, and then obviously it's its evolved form. It actually makes a lot of sense, Brock, that it would want to be in that battle. The damage that Pikachu takes in his first fight with Raichu is pretty damn brutal. I think it's probably the most violent sort of scene we have seen so far in the show. Pikachu takes a serious battering from Raichu, and some of the shots just really emphasize how hard it's hitting. Bit of trivia here about Team Rocket. This episode marks the first time that they refer to Ash by name. In this case, Meowth actually is the one that does it. They show their support for the brave Pikachu and Ash. This is also the first time they express support for any of the main characters. And I really do love that the only reason Team Rocket are cheering on Ash is because they don't want to have been wrong about Pikachu being especially strong, which it's just a regular Pikachu. There's nothing too special about it, but they've still got it in their head that it's somehow super powered. And I do really love that, they're only cheering because it kind of makes them look less stupid if Pikachu does end up getting the win. And, well, a bit of game trivia that links into the show. Due to Surge's team in Pokemon Yellow consisting solely of a Raichu to mimic this battle in the anime, That battle in the game is the only one against the gym leader in any of the games to consist of only one opposing Pokemon, which is quite interesting. I don't think they went all in on making the teams match exactly. They definitely didn't, because so many of the Kanto gym battles are just one-on-one battles. Like, think about when Ash faces off against Sabrina, which is that's basically like the 6th gym when it comes to the games, and that's a one-on-one battle. And Blaine's gym is the 7th, and that's a one-on-one battle as well. So they couldn't really go all in on that without sort of making the game ridiculously easy. Later, at the Pokemon Center, Pikachu awakens and Ash is relieved that he's alright. Pikachu, however, is upset to have been beaten so badly by Raichu. Nurse Joy enters the room, revealing that she has come across a Thunderstone. With it, Ash could evolve his Pikachu into a Raichu as well. Brock warns him to think hard about this though, because once he evolves Pikachu, there is no way to change it back. At this, Ash is extremely torn. He knows that if he evolves Pikachu into Raichu, he might be able to defeat Lieutenant Surge. However, he also realizes that if he were to evolve Pikachu just to battle, he would be no better than Lieutenant Surge. Finally, he decides to let Pikachu choose. Outside, Team Rocket watch intently to see what choice Pikachu will make. Pikachu stands up and whacks away the Thunderstone with its tail. Pikachu then goes on a tirade which moves even Meowth to tears. Meowth explains that Pikachu doesn't want to change, he wants to battle Lieutenant Surge again, but as a Pikachu, and he wants to win in the name of all Pikachu everywhere. Ash agrees with Pikachu's decision and promises that they will win together.
Oh! Pikachu!
Pika Pikachu, Pika, Pee 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 Pikachu, Ta, Pika Pikachu.
It's so brave.
So tell us what Pikachu's saying.
Pikachu won't change. If it's going to Pika Raichu, it wants to do it just as it is.
Now, the cut from the gym battle to Pikachu being at the Pokemon Center is very awkward and abrupt. Like, we really don't even see the end of the gym battle, to be honest. It's like cuts that abruptly and then, all of a sudden we're in the Pokemon Center. It is very, very strange, and it's one of many things that seem to be present in this episode to kind of move things along at a lightning pace. Similarly, I really wish that they dedicated a little bit more time to whether Pikachu would want to evolve or not. It's kind of resolved in like 20 seconds. I think like in future episodes when they would come to a moment like this, Pikachu would spend maybe like at least 5 minutes of the episode sort of pondering like, should I do it, should I not? And then it kind of builds the emotion a lot better than it being like, hey Pikachu, you want to evolve? I'll let you decide. And then fucking 10 seconds later, it's like, oh, we're not evolving. There's also a dub edit here. Brock's implication that Pokemon generally change completely upon evolution in terms of their personality and that sort of thing was not in the Japanese version originally. So Brock suggests a strategy change, but Ash is convinced that they can find a way to win. Pikachu says he will fight to defend both his honor and Ash's. While waiting for Pikachu to fully recover, Brock believes that there might be a solution to defeat Lieutenant Surge and his Raichu after all, when learning that Lieutenant Surge had evolved his Raichu the moment he had caught it, rather than waiting a little bit to give it that Thunderstone. I do really like that this episode emphasizes the positives and negatives evolving, just like the ones that exist in the games. If you evolve early, your Pokemon will probably be stronger overall, and that definitely has its advantages. But if you hold off, you probably are going to learn some moves much earlier, and there's quite a few examples where doing so is beneficial. Recently, I played Pokemon Blue and I used a Ninetales on my team, and when I caught the Vulpix, I was like, you know what, maybe I should just evolve it straight away. But I did a quick search through Bulbapedia and saw, no, that's probably going to cost me learning Flamethrower, so I held off on it, and that I do like seeing that kind of thing translate into the show. Later, Ash and the fully recovered Pikachu head back towards the Vermilion gym. After receiving some bizarre cheers from Team Rocket, they arrive at the gym, ready for their rematch. Once again, it is to be Lieutenant Surge's Raichu against Ash's Pikachu. The battle begins and Ash tells Pikachu to stick to their planned strategy. Lieutenant Surge uses the same strategy as last time, but Ash orders Pikachu to dodge Raichu's heavy attacks, causing Raichu to give itself recoil damage from moves like Body Slam. Ash then orders Pikachu to use Agility and Pikachu accelerates to full speed. Repeated Body Slam attempts from Raichu all miss completely, as Pikachu is simply too fast. Brock then reveals the strategy. Because Lieutenant Surge evolved his Pikachu into Raichu too fast, it never had a chance to learn the speed attacks it can only learn in its Pikachu form. Lieutenant Surge, growing aggravated, orders Raichu to fill the entire gym with a vicious Thunderbolt attack. Raichu rips up the arena floor and even blows out all the windows around the arena. At first, Lieutenant Surge is convinced he has won, but the smoke clears, revealing the unharmed Pikachu standing on its tail.
The end of the match. Huh? What?
Pikachu!
All right, way to go! It used its tail as a ground and dodged the electric shock.
So circling back to Team Rocket's cheering on of Pikachu and Ash, they're dressed up in disguises here, and they decide to do a little bit of a dance here. And just what in God's name is the dance move that Jessie does here? It kind of looks like she's imitating an Ekans. She's sort of like, her body morphs into some kind of snake creature, and she's sort of like bobbing her head around, and it's actually kind of very, very disturbing. It's not like completely in your face she's doing it. It's like sort of obscured a little bit, so it's something to look out for if you do rewatch this episode. This is also the first time Team Rocket disguises themselves in any form. Team Rocket's disguise is also actually a reference to the gag manga series A Flower Cheering Team. Jessie even does the main character's pose when she sticks her tongue out, which I guess, that's referring to maybe the dance that she does. I'm not too sure. I don't recall her sticking her tongue out outside of that, so maybe that is what it's referring to. I'm also curious to know if this is like the only time that the gang recognizes Team Rocket in one of their disguises, because they run off and Misty yells out after them, like, thanks, Team Rocket. So Ash and Brock clearly, I guess just based on their facial expressions, they clearly also recognize them. So, off the top of my head, I can't remember any other times where the gang just immediately recognized Team Rocket in their disguises. I sort of alluded to this before, and I'll touch on it quite a bit in my sort of thoughts on the episode as a whole, but this episode moves at a breakneck pace. It really feels like there's a missing scene where Ash actually arrives back at the gym and challenges Surge to a rematch. We sort of, again, like cutting from the end of the first gym battle to Pikachu in the Pokemon Center. Here you just cut from this to, hey, we're going to battle again, Surge, which is really sort of jarring. We also don't get to see Ash do any training or Pikachu learning agility. If this episode aired 10 years later, it would be laid out very different. There would definitely have been probably 5 minutes dedicated to Pikachu making its decision, then 5 minutes dedicated to Pikachu sort of doing some training with Ash, some specialized training, and then they would have the rematched gym battle. And I think if they used their time better, they definitely had enough to fit all of that in. I will give the episode some credit though. The battles here are pretty great for early season standards. They don't really hold up when matched against anything from like even Gen 2 onwards. But for where the show's at the moment, I think this was actually pretty solid. There's a couple of dub edits during the gym battle though. The shot of Raichu constantly trying to body slam but missing Pikachu is longer in the English dub than it is in the original Japanese. Raichu tries to body slam Pikachu twice in the Japanese version, but in the English dub, Raichu tries 3 times, which not entirely sure why that's changed in the dub, but good on ya. Also in the original Japanese version, Lieutenant Surge uses English curse words when Pikachu uses agility, and the dub just changes it to the far less offensive okay. Brock explains that Pikachu used his tail as a ground to dodge the electric shocks. Lieutenant Surge orders another Thunderbolt, but Raichu is unable to muster up the electricity for it. Ash orders a quick attack, to which Lieutenant Surge responds by ordering a takedown. The quicker Pikachu manages to strike first, slamming into Raichu's stomach. He then slams into Raichu while surrounding himself with electricity, knocking out his opponent and winning the match. Conceding defeat, Lieutenant Surge awards Ash with the Thunder Badge. He no longer refers to Ash as baby, and Raichu even shows some kindness and respect for Pikachu as well. As Ash and Pikachu share an electrifying hug, Team Rocket walks off with James realizing that they had spent the entire episode helping Ash and his friends.
A Thunder Badge.
Thank you. Would you look at that? It's really a Thunder Badge.
You should be proud. You and your Pikachu really fought good together.
Thanks.
Pikachu using its tail to dodge the electricity is sort of just one of many quirky Pikachu tactics we'll see from the little yellow mouse in this series. I guess the first one could probably be counted as the sprinklers going off. That's probably the first quirky Pikachu tactic, and this is the second. But yeah, it's sort of one of many that we'll see. We'll see the aim for the horn, thunder armor, that sort of thing. So yes, Okay, it is interesting to know that the writers have been giving Pikachu some bullshit sort of cheaty-esque tactics since the beginning. Pikachu, when it defeats Raichu, kind of uses like Iron Tail. Like it hits Raichu with its tail and the tail sort of glows white or silver. So it's like, it did give me Iron Tail sort of vibes, and I was like, whoa, what is that move? What is going on here? This is obviously the very first episode where Ash wins a gym battle for actually defeating the gym leader in battle, and it's one of few times where he'll actually win the gym battle. I think we have this, we have, I think this, and then maybe Blaine, and then I guess you can count Viridian City, although he's not facing the actual gym leader, so maybe that doesn't count. And as I mentioned in the summary, Team Rocket walks off at the end of the episode where they break the fourth wall, talking about how they wasted the episode cheering on the good guys. This actually marks the first time that Team Rocket has broken the fourth wall, which we know that's a pretty big thing that is part of kind of Team Rocket's personality, I guess, is them breaking the fourth wall, and this is where it began. But that's the whole episode right there. What did I think of it? Well, this is probably my least favorite gym battle episode so far. I don't think it's terrible by any stretch, but I think Showdown in Pewter City and the Waterflowers of Cerulean City are far superior episodes. The biggest issue with the episode is just how quickly it rushes through everything. From beginning to end, everything sort of just whips by at 100 miles per hour, and you never get any downtime or even just a moment to catch your breath. I just really think that the episode could use some quieter moments, like particularly when it comes to Pikachu in the aftermath of its defeat. I think, as I mentioned as well, not showing some sort of training with Ash and Pikachu is a bit of a mistake there. Those are having a training sort of, I guess, montage or whatever you want to call it, and Pikachu taking a little bit of time to decide whether it wanted to evolve or not. Those two would be big changes that I would make. And yeah, just in general, trying to sort of slow the pace down of the episode. Overall, I think it's a pretty forgettable episode. I don't think anybody would ever look back on this episode, and I don't think anybody would look back on this episode at all if it wasn't for the Pikachu turning down the evolution angle, because that still has obviously repercussions to this day. Yeah, like I think without that, it probably ends up like the Erica gym battle or the Koga gym battle, just something that like nobody ever remembers back on because it doesn't have any sort of defining moments. So the recap of major events for this episode is actually quite long this week. Ash and his friends arrive at Vermilion City and meet the local gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. Ash has a gym battle with Lieutenant Surge but is defeated. Ash receives a Thunderstone from Nurse Joy. Ash's Pikachu refuses to evolve into Raichu. Ash's Pikachu learns Quick Attack and Agility. And then Ash challenges Lieutenant Surge to a rematch and wins, earning himself a Thunder Badge. With a lot of battling in this episode, we actually have an update to Ash Ketchum's win-loss record. Unfortunately, it's at 3 wins, 3 losses, and his winning streak is still at 1 win. Despite the episode featuring quite a bit of battling, significantly more than recent episodes, I should add, his win streak is still basically the same, and his win-loss record is the same, I guess. Because he went 1 win, 1 loss. Talk about 50-50 booking here for Ash Ketchum. Now it's time for a little bit of more trivia. Only one piece of trivia left to give out, and that is that Ash keeps the Thunderstone he receives in this episode until Pika and Goliath 523 episodes later, where it is actually stolen by Team Rocket. So it is nice to know that 523 episodes later, the writers still acknowledge that Ash had this Thunderstone. But with that last piece of trivia handed out, it's time to move on to the Pokemail segment for this week. So my question for this episode is, what do you guys think the anime would have been like if Ash did decide to evolve his Pikachu? I think it's kind of interesting to think about whether the show would have become as iconic as it is today. I think having Pikachu stay as a Pikachu is one of the major reasons why Pikachu became such a huge mascot for Pokemon. I think the anime is the biggest reason why Pikachu is popular. So if you had have had Pikachu evolve into Raichu, maybe not necessarily here, but at some point, I think that would have majorly affected, I guess, the brand recognition of Pokemon and the popularity of the anime. You often see anime significantly drop in popularity when they do something like that. Like, you have a look at like Yu-Gi-Oh! When it transitions from the original series to GX, it kind of feels like everybody dropped away at that moment because they didn't have the characters they were already attached with, and it makes it sort of an easy out for fans to sort of be like, yeah, you know what, this is a good jumping off point here. Same goes for something like Digimon. Like, the original cast is so beloved and well remembered, but even though the second cast from Digimon, I think they're still pretty well remembered, I think a lot of people did drop away there because it's like, oh, all new characters or whatever, I can jump out now. But that basically does us for this episode. Thanks for listening to Who's That Pokemon. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and pretty much any podcast service except Google Play at this point. You can also find the show on Twitter at Who's That PKMN Pod to keep up with the latest updates for the show, and I'm on Twitter as @SauceMarlow. And if you want more Pokemon videos and you're not already watching or listening to this podcast on YouTube, head over to WTP Productions on YouTube. That's my YouTube, where I basically touch on every aspect of the Pokemon franchise, whether it's the games, the anime, sort of delving into the mysteries of the Pokemon series. There's basically something for everyone. So, yeah, I'd appreciate if you check that out. But that's all for this episode. I hope you join me again next time as I take a look back at Battle Aboard the St. Anne. This is an extremely notable episode for, a bunch of reasons, but it also happens to be the beginning of one of my favourite stretches in all of the Pokemon anime. I'm really excited to see if it holds up upon a rewatch, but I guess you'll have to tune in next episode to find out if it does.